All right, gang. So we're here for Overtime, Your Health Matters Overtime. We're with Dr. Lucius Pomerantz of San Diego, orthopedic surgeon, and we're talking about bone density. We're talking about sarcopenia, muscle mass, osteosarcopenia. And if you heard the show that just aired, you know that there are a lot of things we can do. So this is a little bit more freestyle here. No ads, no commercials. We can just go with the flow.
There you go.
Yeah. So when it comes to this whole thing about I've been thinking a lot. The people I see who come in here, um, well, some of the people who come in, very, very, very overweight, and also I argue to say under muscled because they haven't been moving as much. And what's really inspiring is for those who come in, do the work, shed. And it's not going to happen fast. And especially usually when we're in our 70s and 80s, I'm not seeing people shedding a lot of fat quickly. But what I am seeing is as they get involved in what's appropriate for them, challenging, but not going to kill them or anything, resistance, cardiovascular, and then we can get into balance and all that stuff. But just doing the work to increase mobility, stability, agility, balance, and functional movement, even something as simple as getting up out of a chair. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
they wonder why we do squats. Why not? I mean, sitting is a squat, and getting up, you're kind of getting out of a squat. Um, I feel like I'm kind of going a little ADHD here. That's more normal for me. But my abstract thinking comes back around to this under muscled aspect of the population, I think, in addition to
Yeah.
too much body fat, where I think, a lot of us have been, I've been there. Um, I can't agree with you more than I've ever agreed with anybody about this keeping moving thing. You practice I am actually going to get to a point. You practice a Brazilian, is it Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it started off Brazilian, but now the whole world's got it. So we'll just say jujitsu.
Okay, okay, that's cool. So I'm curious to know, with you doing that and your expertise and what you do as a surgeon and a specialist, when you're suggesting people to increase their health span when they're in their lifespan, I know we already talked about it during the actual show, but what other things are you recommending? Like if you're having a conversation with somebody, you're saying, "Hey, you're talking to me. I'm a patient. I just had
Yeah.
hand surgery or something." Like, "Okay, Carl, look, man, here's what you got to do." What are you going to tell me?
Yeah. So we kind of talked a little bit about this on the radio show, is finding the
Yeah,
things you
yeah.
like to do. And part of that is the whole intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. If you're
I
trying
was
to
so
lose
hoping
weight
you would
because you
say
want
that.
to,
Thank you. I was so hoping
yeah,
it. You
hey,
you just hit
you,
what I
you,
want on the head without me
you, you,
realizing the
you,
words.
you
Thank
did
you.
not prompt me. We fell into it. So
No, that was
yeah,
beautiful.
to sustain things and be happy with it, you need that intrinsic motivation. It's got to come within you and be who you are, as opposed to wanting to look good for your friends when you go to the beach. While that
Yeah.
can be motivating and you can achieve results, it's not the best way to sustain your motivation. If you intrinsically want to be in better shape so you can play with your grandkids,
Yeah.
that is something that's going to be much better motivation.
That's me.
Um,
I got four of them.
congrats,
Yeah, man, it's
awesome.
great.
Um, and so, finding what intrinsically motivates you is going to be important. Um, and so, function is usually a big thing. And sometimes, as a coach yourself, you're going to have to lay out and maybe open people's eyes to what is a motivating factor. They may not be thinking about their grandkids for whatever reason, but if you open their eyes to, like, hey, your grandkids are going to want to play
Yeah,
and
that's
you're going to want to
true.
spend time with them, and that might click and they go, oh, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to pick this thing up from the ground because that's what I'm going to do with my grandkids.
Yeah.
And that builds a certain motivation that is sustained. Other things that can keep people motivated is a social interaction. And So doing things with other people, and that can be as simply going for walks with other people. Here in San Diego, where the weather is great year round, you see people outside doing their yoga classes all together at the beach, or these huge groups of bicyclists doing their road cycling on the hills. And that's a social interaction that they
Yeah.
derive some intrinsic satisfaction from, that keeps them doing those things. And then why I do jujitsu? Well, I like doing it. I get some intrinsic satisfaction of the chess match and the physical exercise. But some of these guys are great friends. I like to be around them. We like to talk about things after beating each other up, and
Yeah, that's
get
pretty cool.
ideas from each other and learn from each other. And you're interacting with people you might not otherwise interact with. I might get very much into my world of being a surgeon and not get to interact with these guys who are great guys, but have a completely different career and life trajectory and doing different things. So those are the intrinsic motivations that I get from doing the exercise I do, and that keeps me going with it.
Yeah, I really like that. One of the things that comes up frequently, like every day almost in some way, shape, or form, is the social interaction aspect. I don't know very many people who don't want to socialize. I mean, I
Yeah,
know a few who kind of like to be alone, but not that
yeah,
many, because then they get lonely, and it's really not a healthy thing. And I've been, if there's anything I'm known for around the world, and trust me, I'm not tooting my horn, I'm just kind of a normal guy who got lucky and worked hard, but also been blessed and lucky to meet up with, work, research with some leading neurologists in Europe and Mexico,
awesome.
South America, here, and Asia, and whatever. The thing is I see now the being let's seen as like a specialist in helping people with Parkinson's to restore to whatever degree we can movement, balance, rotations,
Yeah,
gait, maybe even cognition, reduced, manage disease symptoms. Let's put it that way. Um, we see a lot of times when they come in here, depression. Of course, statistically, depression is the number one non-motor symptom of Parkinson's, followed statistically by anxiety as number two. It could be that tremor is causing them to feel like, oh, I can't go out to dinner now because I'm going to spill things on me and it's going to be embarrassing. And so I'll just stay home. And therein starts the cycle of this spiral downward socially into maybe depression because they miss their friends, or they won't go golf, or they won't go, and that's
yeah,
actually very, very sad. So I love the idea of groups, which is one of the things we do here, is trying to encourage groups. This is like this is a really cool
great.
place. If you're ever in Syracuse, which I can't imagine why you would be, but you did go to school in Albany, right?
I did.
So
I was in Albany.
you know where I am. It's only 2 hours away, but
I know what the
well,
weather's like.
yeah, yeah. We have sun today. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Uh, it's a great place because we have a community here and people love that. A lot of the women are widows. And we have one guy who's a widower, so like they're alone. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah,
you brought that up because that social interaction is so huge.
it is. And I say that as an introvert, and by definition, I kind of did get my energy from being alone, being by myself, and that's where I get my energy. But I also know that I do enjoy being with my close group of friends, and that is valuable, and I get something from that. And so even if people don't like being at a huge party and staying up
Sure.
late and being the life of that party, that is definitely not everyone. It's definitely not me.
Yeah.
I
Same
think
here.
everyone, whatever your personality is going to get something from some sort of social interaction. Um, and unfortunately, as we age, we tend to lose it. Our social circles contract for various reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and if we're not proactive about it, and we're perhaps getting depressed because of it, it kind of creates this vicious cycle that we become isolated, and then we don't want to do things, and then we become more isolated. And so, yeah, if you can bring, as a coach, as someone who's helping people, if you can bring that social thing together, I think that in itself will keep people going and make them happier.
Yeah. It is nice to see when they do. well, a bunch of things when let's say, restore some ability, regain an ability they think they had lost or they sort of had lost, um, so that they can move better, do something better. And then a lot of times that leads to hope and empowerment, because a little bit of hope from something regained. I got a story for you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry because this is your platform, but I'm stealing it for one
No,
minute.
no.
Okay.
Do
And some
it.
of the people who listen, they've heard this story, but I teach a lot in Mexico. I usually go about 3 times, 4 times a year. Because really in Mexico, some of the cities like Monterrey, San Luis Potosi, mm, Puebla, and Mexico City, they have some very highly advanced neurology clinics.
Mm.
The rest of Mexico, I can't really say that's the case. But pretty much everywhere in Mexico, um, they're lacking on resources and education for things like, well, a lot of things, especially when it comes to health and fitness and longevity and movement disorders and this and that. What is it? Why do I get Parkinson's? Well, we can't really say why exactly. I mean, I've had experts on the show. They don't know why. They can speculate why. But bottom line is, managing these things. There's usually something we can do to help people, or maybe quite a few things. And kind of circle back around here. This one lady in Monterey, my first time there 6 years ago, 42 years old, Parkinson's for 17 years. A lot of early, young onset there. And I think a lot of it's environmental related to jobs, water supply, big thing, horrible water. But regardless of that, we're teaching a class after being the speaker after these neurologists, and then I change, get into workout clothes, go, and I said, "What are we gonna do?" Because I didn't know what to do. Okay, I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you want to do?" Who has trouble rolling over in bed when they wake up? All these hands go up. So, okay, that's it. The floor is our friend, and the floor is what we're gonna do. Is we're gonna learn how to work on the floor. First of all, we're gonna practice that we fell down, roll over, and then teach people how to get back standing up safely, hopefully without a prop, but
Yeah.
if with a prop, right? Let's get back to safety.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
holy cow, I walk up there and I didn't speak Spanish so well at the time, but I'm like, oh, Aries, okay? Are you okay? Because she's crying, and her daughter and her husband are with her. Yes, senor, gracias, gracias. The first time in 5 years she had rolled over by herself without assistance. How many of us take that for granted, Doc, right? I mean, I
Oh
did.
man. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and she chose to be bedridden at 42. Well, I just saw her last fall, and she's like, she's still running. She's running like races. Man, she lives by Mount Topo Chico. She's like beelining it up there, sprinting, because hope
Yeah.
from one little thing. I mean, I I know you do this. You tell people, you suggest things to do, and that I can't reiterate enough to the listeners, along with Dr. Pomerantz, about how important it is to keep moving so that you don't lose those abilities. Because man, that depression, once it kicks in, it can rule. It
Mm-hmm.
can
It
rule.
it can be devastating. The mindset is powerful, and yes, hope can be life changing, reinvigorate people. And I also want to point out a few things. One, I mean, anything is going to take some work. If it was easy, then
We all
everyone
do
would
it.
do it. And
Yeah.
so everything takes some work. But if you can, one, have some hope, and two, give just little things, and to point out, I mean, you're not creating some magical machine or some amazing medicine. This is just simply providing some activity of daily living motion, and simple. It didn't cost you anything, didn't cost them anything, and it's powerful. And I wish people could see that there's so many things that we can do. We have the power over ourselves and can help others do that are relatively simple. And yes, it takes work. And yes, it takes a mindset that can be hard to get to. But if you can get there, man, it can be life-changing. You don't need a ton of money. You don't need the resources we have here in the United States to make
Yeah.
some big, big changes.
I mean, it's so true. I don't know if you've seen or if you have what you think of that series about the blue zones.
I I'm aware of it. I haven't actually watched the documentary, but I'm very familiar with it. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about that, and let me just say, folks, I saw it. I can't remember how many parts. I believe it might be four episodes. And there is some, from some medical people out there who are also very, very, very big on social media. All respect to them. I understand maybe they didn't look at all these aspects of everything that could be possibly looked at, so that maybe there's a little bit of a um, um, favoritism towards something. I don't even know what it is. I can't remember. I can't put it in words. But regardless of any of the holes that are punched into the theories of the blue zone, there is one thing all of those communities have in common. They are moving, and they are moving a lot, and they're moving every day. Most of it's not even like exercise as we know it, or as we tend to refer to it, the gym, the dojo.
Yeah.
I did Goju karate for a long, long time.
Cool.
And
Awesome.
it was great. I just wanted to do something else, so I do other things now. But in fact, the reason I needed a half an hour extra today, I'm sorry, is I had a chance to go to CrossFit with my daughter. She's the one who recruited me.
Nice.
Because I'm telling you, man, I got a Spartan beast coming up with my son in Killington. Half marathon, 30 obstacles this fall. I've done just a little less than the beast, but I got to crush that thing, man. So every day counts.
Yeah.
I got
There you
108
go.
days. I'm out of my countdown. 108 days that I've got to crush that thing. So thank you
Nice.
for the extra half hour today, because it allowed me to work on
Yeah.
this shoulder strength that I'm starting to feel strong, like a full grown
Good.
man almost. So,
Yeah.
but the
And
thing
you
is those
gotta,
communities, those are moving. Those people are moving. And what else can you say? I
yeah.
mean,
No, it's clear.
it seems to be a good thing.
Movement and the little bit of I saw, it's they're interacting with their friends, they're climbing that hill
Yes.
to then hang out and have
Yes.
coffee with their buddies, they're actively fishing, whatever they're doing, they're active and they're interacting and they're outside, and those are all pretty low cost things and we can all do, and their motivations aren't necessarily to, oh, I want to live to 100, so I'm gonna go walk. I want to be with my friends, I'm gonna go for a walk.
Yeah.
um and so it's those little things, and it's awesome that you're doing CrossFit and you're doing it with your kids and you got an event to work towards, and that's extra motivation. So that's really cool.
I introduced my son to your oh, I meant to say this on the air too. I'll put it in the description, the Cut to the Bone YouTube channel.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think that you may hear from him at some point. He's just really freaking busy. And
yeah. I get
we're
it.
informally on I'm on the air on YouTube right now. So listeners, I know you know about my son, but the two of you I think would really, really hit it off, because he's 37, he's MD, he's a PhD, he's emergency room specialty, but his full-time gig is developing artificial intelligence emergency room equipment, like
Wow.
for
All
diagnosis
right.
and
Well,
treatment. It's very, very
yeah,
cool. He was at Emory for 3 years in Atlanta. I mean, that hospital is freaking busy, right? So
yes.
the thing is though, like what I admire about you and my son, and I look up to my son as an inspiration, as a mentor, which I love, and my daughter too, because she holds me accountable on these CrossFit things. And her husband was there today too, so that was cool. But the idea of you practice what you preach. I mean, I love the photo you have sent me of your bloody eye, and it looks great.
Yeah.
But you're active, you're doing the stuff. You look lean, you look healthy. Um, you're practicing what you tell us to do, and my son does, and Peter Attia does, and the doctor upstairs who I took over this radio show from, he does. And that's there's a lot to be said for that. I admire and respect you so much for that, in addition to so many other reasons,
Yeah.
because No disrespect, folks, but you know the doctors who are out there smoking outside and then they come in and tell you not to smoke. I mean, what are you going to
Yeah.
say? None of
Yeah.
us are perfect, but walking the
No,
talk is a
no.
big deal.
We all have our flaws, and I'm fortunate to get a lot of intrinsic motivation from
Uh,
exercise, so it makes it easier for me. Um, but I also think physicians and coaches and however it is, we're leaders in a way, educators and leaders, and I think it's most effective to lead from the front and practice what you
Ah, man,
preach.
I love that. If you
Um,
don't mind, I'm going to give you credit for it, but I'm stealing that one. I'm going to borrow it. We need to
okay,
lead from the front. That's
yeah,
genius.
um,
It's so
and
obvious, and I never really thought of it like that.
right. No, it wasn't certainly my idea. I mean, I'm adjacent to a lot of military folks here in San Diego, and
Oh, sure.
leadership is a big thing, and I kind of can grab stuff that they are living themselves, and you can apply it to different areas. But yeah, as an educator who I hope to convince people that they can make life changes, if I'm not living it, then my voice is not as powerful. And I hope to be an example, and I hope to derive the same benefits. I don't have grandkids. No,
Hmm.
my daughter's only 7. But I still love throwing her in the air and tumbling around with her,
Ah, that's
and that's
perfect.
it. That's a huge motivation for me. So
I was going to ask, if you don't mind me asking, I go, what drives you intrinsically?
yeah. Um, so it's changing. And I think that's another thing is as we go through life, our motivations change, and that's okay. I've now officially reached middle age. I'm 42. For a long time, I was just kind of on this track. It made it easier. You know, we talked a little about me being an introvert, and I could just go down this track of I could be in the library, study, take the test, go on to the next thing. Boom, boom, boom. Do this, jump through that hoop, go. Um, and I also realized that I felt better going through it. My body felt better. My mind was better. I felt I could study better by getting some exercise in, and I had fun. And I was competitive when I was younger. I wanted to win these competitions, and so putting the work in the gym wasn't a problem. Getting stronger, trying to learn about nutrition, all these were motivations because I wanted to be better at competing. Um, but now I see, like, all right, I'm not going to be a world champion. That is clear. Uh, and that was kind of a hit. I remember when I kind of finished what was my athletic time competitively, and it was kind of a hit. Like, all right, I didn't reach my big goals, which I was aiming big. I wanted to win tournaments, and that wasn't going to happen anymore. And part of it was I also had to realize like it's time to be an orthopedic surgeon. Uh, I quick aside, I ended up in the hospital on IV antibiotics with a staph infection in the early part of my surgical residency because I was trying to compete in MMA, mixed martial arts, at the same time.
Hmm.
And it's kind of this realization that I can't do it and I got to realign my priorities. And so the motivations became how I felt with exercise, maintaining social interactions. And now that I've got a daughter, I still want to play with her,
Sure.
and she's a little thrill seeker. So I gotta do some stuff.
Oh, beautiful,
I
man.
gotta
I
get her
love
high
that.
in the air if she's gonna have fun. So
Yeah. Good
yeah,
for you.
those have turned into my motivations. And sure, you start thinking about your mortality, and you start know the statistics of bone health deteriorating, muscle health deteriorating. It's harder to maintain these things, and I'm looking to live a long, healthy life.
Yeah.
I have my grandma whose motivation, she's 107. Um,
Whoa.
and I've seen how important mobility was to her. She got her knee replaced when she was in her 90s. And that is the reason why she's 107, because she kept walking.
I love
And
that.
so all of these things have contributed to why I want to keep going and
That's
and where I
beautiful.
intrinsically feel happy doing these things.
That's first of all, bravo to your grandmother, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, sure, there's genetics there, but
Does she live
there's a
near
big
you?
part to her mindset. Yeah, she's in Los Angeles, so a couple hours away.
Oh, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. We get to see her,
Side
and
note, side note, I flew into LA last year Nobody needs to hear this, but you will. So rent this Mustang because I like fast cars and early sporty cars. Even the 6 cylinders are fast these days.
Yeah.
I have an old Mustang. I got a 66. It ain't so fast, but it sounds really cool. Right. So, anyways, I rent this Mustang. I had to go to San Diego to the URSA conference, but I was hanging out with some musician friends in LA. I never made better time getting to San Diego. It was a Sunday afternoon. Like I left around noon, and as I don't know the road, but it's like 7 lanes on each side,
Yeah.
going
The
like
405.
115 miles an hour down this highway because Waze said there was no police. Well, fortunately, there's no police and there's hardly any traffic, but I never made it faster to San Diego than that day. What a thrill.
Yeah.
Talk about a dopamine rush.
Yeah, and it's scenic too. Got the
Yeah,
ocean and
yeah.
yeah, I've never done that fast, but
I wouldn't
it's a
recommend
nice
it, by
drive
the
when there's
way.
no traffic.
Yeah, I would not recommend it. I was really seeking a thrill, and I certainly had it. Didn't do
There
that
you
the
go.
whole way, but I had periods when I was hitting it really fast.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if it's good for my longevity though. Maybe it was. Does that
Well,
make you live longer when you get a ton of dopamine rushing into you like that?
it certainly makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And as long as nothing bad happens, hey,
Yeah, I
go for
know.
it.
So I went off on a tangent. Well, yeah, you know what? Probably need to wrap up soon so I can go work with
Uh,
somebody here and help them
yeah,
move
yeah,
better. Doctor, it's been so great to meet you. Great to have you on the show. If you don't mind, just hang on with me after I stop the recording button. But
sure,
yeah, thanks,
no problem.
man. And
Hey, it was
what's
fun.
your YouTube is cut to the
So
bone.
cut to the bone on YouTube. Cut to the bone. Um, Orthopedic surgery. We work on bones, and during surgery, the bone is the safe space. You don't have to worry about the nerves or the blood vessels if you're right on the bone. So
Oh, great. That's
cut to the
cool.
bone. There you go.
I love that. Good name, catchy name too. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks again for joining me. And I can't thank you enough. Let's do it again sometime down the road.
that'd be awesome. I
Meanwhile,
would love it.
thanks, Doc. And be sure everyone to go to YouTube and just look up on Dr. Lucius Pomerantz. There'll be a link in the description too to his um, information, his YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. And this is my first overtime, so it's kind of cool. I'd just like to
Glad to be part.
the 40 minutes of radio. Just I'd like to get a second hour, but it's not going to happen. They don't have time for me, and I don't have time to do it actually. But this makes it nice.
Yeah,
So, all right, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Doctor. And
yeah.
have a fantastic day. And remember to keep moving.
Keep moving.
Take care, folks.